Hello and welcome back to the Angry Dave podcast. I have a returning guest today, Cousin Brucey, Kung Fu Bruce.
Thank you for having me back there, Deputy Dave.
Bruce, how you been, buddy?
I've been good, man. I cannot complain.
How's life treating you?
Good.
In the past few months?
I can't complain, man. Things are pretty good. Got a steady thing going with work, training. I mean, you know, if you ask my coach, and if I haven't been there in a day or two, then that means I missed a whole month.
Right. How's work, man?
Good. It's always busy, especially right now.
You have
people,
been... Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say people kill me, man. They just crack me up because it's like every time you're like, damn, dude, you just hit the top of the mic. And they're like, nah, man, let me try it again.
You have been, what, a detective now in Philadelphia for how long?
I've been with the police department for 9 years, but a detective for over a year now.
Yeah. And why is it busy right now? Is it anything? What's going on?
I wish I could say that it's because certain holidays or certain times.
Yeah.
But a video on Instagram worded it the best. People you don't mess with in certain cities, like Chicago because they'll do this, this, and this. But Philly because they'll just kill you because they are the weekends and why.
Yeah.
And they do. Like, last night I had a new one for me, which is like, I had a complainant call up. Hey, someone pulled a gun on me, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, cool. We'll have you come up for an interview. I'm Detective Buchanan. Come up to 400 North Broad. Oh, I know who you are and where you're at. I'm like, why? She says, you locked up my husband last year for stealing my gun. I'm like, oh.
Jesus. How about you're changing militaries too, right? Like divisions or...
Yeah, I'm going from the Air Force to the Coast Guard in the next few months.
And you got some training to do for that too?
Yeah, I got to go away to Cape May, which is a lot better than going away to Texas.
Yeah. What making the change? Why? Why now?
You know, just preference. I, for starters, love the idea of reporting 7 minutes from my house versus an hour and some change.
Right.
It'll be a new change of pace, a new mission set, and you know, I wish a lot of people in my old unit the best, and I always tell people just because I'm leaving to go somewhere else doesn't mean that I wouldn't recommend the Air Force to anybody else.
And how long were you in the Air Force total?
Almost 12 years.
And so what's your pension status with that? How's that work out?
The way the pension works is if you do 20 years, whether it's full-time or part-time, you'll get some kind of monetary pension, but the biggest thing is medical.
Right.
Like, I'm staying till bare minimum in the military till 20 years to get medical for my wife and I when I retire. Right. Having said that, if you do, like, active time with the Guard or active duty for 20 years, you get, like, 65% of your pay as your pension.
Gotcha.
If you're only part-time with miscellaneous active time, it's going to be obviously much less.
But it doesn't matter what branch of service you're in. It all sort of transfers over. Is that the way it works?
Yeah. Pay and pension and all that stuff are virtually the same.
Okay.
They're like anything, though. As time's changing, like, I'm at a point, I can't believe it now, where I'm considered grandfathered in from 12 years ago.
Right.
And the pensions are now slightly starting to change to a 401k thing than a pension.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Everybody's getting cheap.
Yeah, well, that bothers me considering that, you know, we don't really take care of our military as it is, and now we're getting fucking cheap on the pension.
Yeah.
I mean, how do the guys feel about it?
Young guys, it's the craziest thing. Like, young guys who are like 18 to 22 don't care.
Right, they don't know anything.
Because they're not even that. A lot of them, when they go in, they're like, I'm just doing 4 and out anyway, so a pension doesn't matter to me.
Right.
It's not until people get in that they realize, oh, well, not active as much, but like if you work for Guard, there's a couple more incentives to work there full-time. Yeah. Like what's called active Guard reserve. Once they settle in and they're like, oh, man, I can actually make some pretty decent money doing this full-time with some good benefits and good medical and blah, 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 blah. Then they start caring about the investment of working there.
Right. All right. So, you know, anything that made you particularly angry in the last couple months?
I'm going to have to come back to that question at the end. There's a couple, but I want to find the best one.
All right. And you shit yourself at all? Piss yourself? Anything?
No.
Anything embarrassing that we can catch people up with?
There have been multiple times so far that I almost did. I do have one that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And my wife wasn't too happy about it. I hadn't gone to the bathroom from the night before to the next day.
Yeah.
And then we went to breakfast at this place called Cafe Le Mode off of like 4th and Brown.
Yeah.
And I'm on my way. I dropped her off at her parents' house, and I'm on my way home. And then, like, out of nowhere, no warning, it's like, you got to go now. And I'm like, oh, my God. So, like, I'm running up the steps to my house, and I'm like, I got to get in. I put her key in the door, and the key breaks in the door. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not going to make it. I'm, like, using my finger to try to get, like, the key just to barely work so I can get in the house. It was so close.
Oh, but you made it?
I did. I just barely made it. Like, if it was a second longer outside, I have to tell my wife I broke her key and I shit my pants.
How'd you get the key out?
Thankfully, the very, very itty-bittiest tip of it was still hanging out of the lock, and I used, like, needle nose pliers to pull it out.
Gotcha. Son of a bitch. I really wish you would have pissed yourself.
I wouldn't have been pissed myself. I would have shit myself.
All right, so the reason I brought you back is because we really sort of glossed over last time you were here your life in martial arts, and I just wanted to get you to start talking about that and let everybody know. So when did you first start picking up martial arts?
I started picking it up when I was about 7.
Really? What did you start out at?
I started out doing a style called Tang Sudo under Master Dennis Jones, who still has a school out in Brookhaven, Delaware County. His 2 senior students were technically my first teachers for like a year or so. About 2-3 years. Because they taught the kids class.
Okay.
And saying how things changed from then to now. Yeah. I couldn't be more happy that I had the teachers then that I did, because like they would have a roster of things that you had to be good at, like more than proficient at, to test for the next level. Right. They never believed in kid black belts. Yeah. They never believed in just handouts. Like, it could take you years and they didn't care. You want to get in the adult class, you have to earn your way into the adult class. Obviously, if you age out, then, like, the different story. They're not going to have a 25-year-old fighting a 7-year-old, but... Right. Like Kramer. Yeah. But they were very tough on me. But I'm glad that they were, because that was true old-school discipline, and, like, not, oh, well, you kind of did it, so, like, good for you, kid, let's just do it. Like, no, you did it wrong. You're not getting a check. Yeah. I still see you're not practicing at home, or, like, you know, you're not hitting the mark. You need to practice more. I will even stay after class to make sure you practice this and get it proficient before I move you on. Yeah, I mean, and that's old school karate, right? Yeah, Master Jones, but ironically enough, with a name like Dennis Jones, was from Korea. Oh, really? Yes. That's funny. But yeah, I mean, I guess we've seen that over the past 25, 30 years, like sort of like the McDonaldization of karate schools in particular, where, you know, there's 30 belts that you get promoted every couple of months, and you pay some money and you do these katas, and then you get out there and it doesn't feel like they're preparing you for what martial arts was really supposed to be. Is that your perception of it? So it's not even, I mean, yes, that's a general perception of it. It's not even just karate anymore. Right. It's even coming for jiu-jitsu now. And, like, jiu-jitsu's considered, like, I know I'm going to get canceled for that, but, like, jiu-jitsu's considered, like, right now with where we are today, the high ground of where karate was of the 80s. Yep. You know, like, people put a lot of stock in a jiu-jitsu black belt. Yep. But now we're at a point where a jiu-jitsu black belt does not mean a jiu-jitsu black belt anymore. You have your BJJ sport black belts. You have your Gracie traditional black belts. You have your guys that did it for 10 years. You have your guys that did it for 5 years. You have, like, everybody in between. Like, they even did an episode on Joe Rogan with a guy who owns, I believe it's called, like, All-Star Gym or something like that in Canada, like, trained like George St. Pierre and all them. Right. And he's like, dude, I'm seeing people come in from certain schools where they have, like just, like, punch cards. Where it's like they will tell you from day one, after X amount of classes, you will have your blue belt, you will have your purple belt, you will have your brown belt. Right. And you already know from day one the exact day you're going to have your black belt. I mean, and that's not good. I mean, we see that in our gym too, where, you know, you get the people that say that they're a certain level of whatever, judo, jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter, and there's a drastically different level between people, regardless of the color of their belt. You know, I mean, there really is. And it really, I think, depends on the gym, don't you? It does. It also depends on the individual stock in what they believe black belt is. So there are people that believe black belt should just mean that you're proficient in all things basic and moderate. Right. There are people that believe black belt should be mastery.
Right. I mean, the old school jiu-jitsu way, or at least the Gracie's jiu-jitsu way, was that you were a master.
More or less, yeah. I mean, kind of. They just the thing is they just trained so long.
Yeah.
That it was almost like mastery.
Right.
I mean, that's even going before when Elio Gracie only had 2 belts, which was like white and like a navy blue. Navy blue meant you were an instructor and proficient. White meant that you were a beginner.
Yeah, let's talk about that transition. I mean, and it's not as practical as it used to be. I mean, I think Helio would be rolling over in his grave right now. Would he at least what he's seen in America?
Elio really liked the sport of jiu-jitsu, like he raised his kids on it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm a history buff. I am by no means a black belt in jiu-jitsu or anything.
Right.
I just got my blue belt.
Yeah.
And I've trained under both. I've trained under instructors that were very like street oriented, stand up combat, takedowns, things like that. And I trained under guys who were very good instructors, but like I considered them booty scooty because they would get right on the ground and start scooting towards somebody.
Yeah.
And here's the concept for me with martial arts. Every art has elements of a full circle system.
Right.
They just emphasize other ones. Like if you look at old school Okinawan karate.
Yeah.
That was like a grappling style. Like a lot of the old school forms from Okinawa and like Goju-Ryu and things like that.
Yeah.
When they would do certain techniques, they were grappling techniques to take somebody to the ground. But it put more emphasis in the strikes and the kicks. But the problem, especially with what happened with the Gracies, was it gets watered down with every generation. So like your initial baseline Gracies, like Hickson, Hoyce, and all those guys.
Yeah, the first generation.
Yeah, right. And Hoyler and all them. They do teach the old school method.
Yeah.
Like those guys, and like Henzo and them, like those guys, like, yeah, they all teach competition.
Right.
But you have to be proficient in protecting yourself because Elio's first thing, and especially what I really like about Hickson, was they were fighters. They fought on the street. Like they didn't give a shit if it took place between concrete or if it was on a mat.
Yeah.
And they would even say, like, I would try not to be on the ground as long on the mat. Like, and not for nothing. If you watch them do, like, Vale Tudo Pride and, like, all that other stuff, they're punching the shit out of people.
Right.
And you can see that their jiu-jitsu changes from a rule set where I'm scooting on the ground and I'm just holding somebody and certain things that apply.
Right.
So, like, I got this guy in my guard, but he's punching me in the face 5 times. So I got to figure out what I'm doing here.
I mean, old school Brazilian jiu-jitsu really is just judo with a emphasis on groundwork. I mean, that's really all it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the old school Japanese way of thinking, right?
Right. Yeah.
There were Ishinryu. There was I'm trying to think. There was Danzenryu. There's small circle.
Yeah.
But it all ends in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
So basically, what it means is you have that art,
right,
but you put your family's name before it.
Right.
Now, back at that time, Kano wanted to make a more scholarly and more like hands-on training that you weren't just maiming somebody and saying, I can't really practice with you because, I mean, I'll kill you if I do.
Right.
So he wanted to make it more full circle, which it had more strikes and everything in it too, just limited.
Yeah.
When he passed it on to his students, they taught it in Brazil.
Right.
They when it was taught in Brazil, but like, it depends on who you hear it from. The most consistent story that I've heard was they didn't want to call it judo just in case it didn't work out in Brazil.
Right.
So they were just calling it jiu-jitsu.
Right, Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And well, the thing is when they first taught them jiu-jitsu or judo, what were you being taught? Judo. You weren't, I mean, technically jiu-jitsu and judo, if you look at old school methods, they're almost virtually identical.
It's almost
interchangeable.
virtually, yeah.
It's still wrestling with striking and takedowns and throws.
Right, and that's the thing that you don't see in modern judo either, is you're not seeing the striking anymore. You're not seeing some of the basic takedowns with the legs because the sport of judo has taken that stuff away.
Yeah.
So, I know that, you and I are often at our gym at least trying to talk about more street practicality and to our sensei's benefit, he is good at talking to us about walking us through what is good on the street and what is not. But you also, a lot of these schools, jiu-jitsu, judo schools, karate schools, have to teach to what is going to make them money, and the sport is what makes money. I mean, it just is. People want a medal. They just do.
They do.
They do, and they, the progression and the fight to be better at something is not necessarily something that pays well all the time, so, and that's part of, off topic from the martial arts aspect of it, but that's part of my rant in childhood sports and it's becoming a problem and has been a problem in martial arts for many years. And the more strict disciplines, the judo, the jiu-jitsu are now starting to fall victim to it because parents want the shoe deal. Like they think that, they're going to super train their kids into being these super athletes and, they need to have a medal and to prove, they need to spend the money to prove that their kid is better and they're fucking 8 years old and it's never going to matter.
Agreed.
Yeah.
There's a lot with that. I mean, it's just the term martial art is translated to like war art. It's meant to be for combat. For example, when you learn a lot of throws, old school throws in like Japanese jujutsu is actually what it was called. Jujutsu, like gentle art, and then you have gentle way.
Right.
Which, funny enough, learning about that, gentle art meant like to kill somebody, using your techniques, but you can kill them. But the gentle way was taking a more gentle way of doing things without having to maim somebody when they hit the ground.
Right.
Their goal was like, I'm going to use my weapon, which is like my sword or my semi-sword or whatever I have. If that fails and I get close to you, I want to take you down without being as close to you as possible for as minimal amount of time.
Right.
Once you're on that ground, I'm pulling another small weapon out. I'm just going to stab you. That was the goal. Right. And then like chokes got incorporated and things like that. I mean, like they had some, but these weren't like, my primary goal wasn't to fist fight my opponent on the battlefield.
Right.
It was to, oh shit, I lost my weapon. Take you down real quick, grab another weapon, stab you.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, obviously we're not living that same time period, but the Edo period. But we, we're at a time now, like you said. I mean, like you can have somebody that's like a borderline Olympic level, like athlete who's in great shape and can use their judo, and then the minute they get punched in the face on the street, it's like all my training just left my body.
Yeah.
And like Mike Tyson always said, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
Right. I mean, it's true.
And it's just that I think that there is absolutely nothing wrong with sport level training.
Yeah,
I think it's amazing there are people that dedicate so much time and skill into having this skill and competing.
And these guys are incredible athletes, not taking anything away from them. Well, I think what we're just talking about is what martial arts from a broad perspective is supposed to be or was designed to be.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at too is a lot of competitors today are not like our coach. For instance, like our coach knows how to strike.
Right.
He knows how to do leg takedowns.
Right.
He knows how to use his judo, and he knows how to grab somebody that's not wearing anything.
Right. And
a lot of people don't know that, which is learning half your curriculum, which is the problem.
Or a third of your curriculum.
Exactly. You're
in some of these schools, in some of the judo schools around, you're just going to learn takedowns. Like you're not even going to learn, you might learn some takedowns, you'll learn some chokes, but you're not going to learn a variety of defense on the ground, and you're definitely not going to learn strikes.
Exactly. And even something that always kind of like, you have a lot of people that even like traditional schools will train like traditional weapons, like, oh, you get a staff, you get a stick, you get a sai, you get a whatever. But they don't teach like modern improvised weapon kind of training, so to speak. Like Ed Parker, I was telling you about him.
Yeah.
He's the founder of American Kenpo. And, whether you look at it one way or the other with Kenpo, there are dudes that like can do Kenpo that just can't get down with their stuff. And then you have people like Stevie Wonderboy Thompson who can just obliterate somebody with Kenpo.
Yeah, right.
Ed Parker's philosophy on Kenpo is similar to how Bruce Lee kind of was. Like, I want something that will be direct to the point, that can defend myself, obviously keeping some traditional value,
right? But
like something that's ever changing. So like the back of his dojo, he built like a little bar area, and he'd smoke it up a little bit and be like, we're in a bar setting. Yeah. I'm not pulling a sai out of my ass and I'm going to fight you. I'll pick this ashtray up and crack you in the head or throw it at you first and then take you to the ground and start beating the balls off you.
Right. A more practical approach.
Exactly. Or you may have the dude's buddy come up, being able to understand the concepts of cutting angles. Like, I'm not going to run down the center of 2 people or 3 people, but I'll pick left or right and try to work my way in, almost kind of like a flank, only without going behind them.
Yeah.
And working your way in.
Now, and MMA training these MMA gyms, MMA certainly is great, is sort of the Bruce Lee thing, right? That's what Bruce Lee was really the first modern MMA person, right? He took a bunch of different disciplines, melded them together, made it his own, and always wanted to change and get better, and trained with different people, trained with karate people, trade with jiu-jitsu people, learn catch wrestling, that type of thing, right? And he did all that stuff. But the one thing that I think about MMA too is people in MMA gyms are fighting people with basically no clothes on. And that's fantastic when you have no clothes on and you're on a beach.
Right.
But there are practical applications where it's going to be very difficult if I have something tactile to grab onto. I'm going to make it really difficult for you if you don't know how to defend yourself in those situations too. So just
agreed
on that thought.
I think having a solid middle ground of gi and no gi training is imperative because gi represents wintertime. When you can grab people's pants, you can grab their jackets, you can grab whatever. Yeah. And then you have your short sleeves, which are like, shit, it's summertime, and you're wearing a paper-thin T-shirt that if I try to grab that to pull you, it may rip.
Right.
I would say, though, that I think a lot of schools should also, especially doing grappling, that's the one thing that jiu-jitsu kind of stayed ahead of judo with that I'm really kind of disappointed with.
Yeah.
I think that judo removing legs was terrible. I mean, granted, for a sport spectacle aspect, it takes more skill because they found that people were just grabbing legs nonstop and taking people to the ground.
And so just so people know, I don't know the exact history of it, but it's 10 or 15 years ago, Olympic judo and every other lower level has followed suit, has took the leg takedowns out of judo, and it was basically for twofold, really, because it was becoming more closer to wrestling. And really, Eastern Europeans, Russians were winning, and Japanese were not winning anymore, and that was becoming a problem. So, it was not as, quote unquote, traditional. So that's a problem. So a lot of times you won't get a whole lot of teaching in the schools with that because it's not competition oriented. At the competitions, you're not going to be able to use any of that on any of those techniques, which, is sort of a problem. And I think you're seeing that in jiu-jitsu schools as well, that they're teaching towards competition. And again, I don't necessarily blame the instructors for that because that's what people want.
Right. Like you'll see, I like to watch open competitions.
Yeah.
Not just like jiu-jitsu purple belt versus jiu-jitsu black belt or blah, 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 blah. I like watching the judo versus jiu-jitsu people.
Yeah, me too.
Because they're and there's almost no middle ground sometimes. Because sometimes you'll get a judoka in there that'll slam a dude on the ground and then baseball bat choke a black belt. And they're like, how did he get this off? Gee, I wonder why. Where did he get those techniques from?
Right.
But then also you'll have in a jiu-jitsu tournament, somebody that does judo, they'll step in and then a jiu-jitsu guy will do a double or a single leg takedown. Right. And because that judo guy is very top heavy, on his throws, isn't expecting the guy on different rules to grab his leg and take him down.
Right.
Whereas, if I was to enter a jiu-jitsu tournament with my judo background, beforehand I'd be training with Ali, going my coach and being yo, I want to drill these leg takedowns too.
Right.
Throw this in my arsenal because I want to be able to take anybody on either end, even a wrestler if I have to.
Yeah, and again, because in a lot of these grappling gyms, you're not training any striking whatsoever. Even leg strikes, nothing, nothing. So again, you get out on the street or you get into these, MMA competitions and you don't know how to defend. You don't know how to defend when you get a shin kick, Well,
that's why you're also seeing a lot of it comes full circle because in the 80s and the 70s, you saw a lot of guys dominating with karate, right?
Right.
And then Muay Thai hit the scene and embarrassed karate for a little bit, which a lot of people don't know. That the founder of Kyokushin Karate, which in my opinion is one of the toughest forms of karate, they just beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
Masoyama, the founder of Kyokushin, sent, I think it was 3 black belts over to Thailand. 3 of his personal black belts.
Right.
2 of the matches were Kyokushin, 1 was a draw. Most people don't know that because they're Muay Thai would fuck karate up.
Right.
And it really does come down to the practitioner.
It comes down to the practitioner and the coach. I mean, there's no question. All of the disciplines have what it takes to be a great defensive or offensive martial artist.
People forget about Kung Lee. Kung Lee got in the ring, and he was a wrestler, and he was a 6th-degree black belt in Taekwondo.
Yeah.
And he was jacking dudes up.
Right.
You know, I mean, granted, he had a soft blend of Muay Thai with it because I do think you should know what your opponent's armed with.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see, like, I tell everybody all the time, like, grappling arts are fantastic.
Right.
Like, you're seeing a lot of traditional guys go to jiu-jitsu classes or go to judo classes, but they already have a foundation and a solid striking art.
Right. Yeah, so you know what? Why don't you give everybody your background a little bit, just in case they didn't catch the first podcast. You are a black belt in what?
I am a third-degree black belt in Tang Soo Do.
Right.
Which I've been training since I was 7, and I'm 30, so, 23, 24 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And I've been doing Wing Chun, traditional Wing Chun, since I was 16.
Yeah.
And so at that time on there, I got what is considered my second-degree black sash, but it's called our level 8.
Okay.
Which different in all aspects, which we can cover later.
Yeah.
I have my blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Started that when I was 16, but it was very off and on up until then.
Right.
And I've been doing judo steady for the last about 4 years, and I'm a brown belt in judo.
So talk about the two karate disciplines and explain to everybody the difference between the two of those.
The two, Wing Chun and, okay, so
yeah.
Tang Soo Do is essentially like Shotokan karate.
Okay.
It's basically found off the same principles. The forms look the same. The style looks the same. It translates to the hand-foot way, or the soft hand or foot way, because it's supposed to be a blend of Japanese and Chinese, which
right.
Chinese is soft, Japanese is harder.
Okay.
It essentially boils down to, it incorporates all your striking, your takedowns, and with using your legs, your distance, your punching, things like that. Not as coordinated as boxing with its hand, but it can get the job done.
Right.
Wing Chun is very close quarter combat kind of thing. You're not going to see long ranged kicks and straight jabs.
Yeah.
It's very much like trapping. Like when someone comes in, I don't want to like blow for blow with you. I don't even want to block super hard. I want to be able to cut angles and move in on the most effective way possible.
Right.
Like stopping the technique while striking at the same time.
And arm locks too.
Yeah. There's grappling in there too. I tell everybody who does Wing Chun, there's a whole backstory to that too. Long and short of that is there are two different. Everyone argues who's what's considered modified and traditional.
Yeah.
In my family, the ones we consider modified are the ones that fight like scholars. Their forms look gorgeous. They get bowled over immediately in a fight.
Right.
In ours, our forms look pretty decent, but our guys fight 50-50, and we put a lot of emphasis on straight combat. I tell anybody that's doing, especially like Wing Chun or like karate, go get Swai Jiao trained. Go get jiu-jitsu. Go do judo. Especially go to judo or Swai Jiao.
Yeah.
Only because you want an art that emphasizes a lot of throws to takedowns, because
right.
when you're trapping somebody, you're putting hands on them. So at that point, when I use that Wing Chun to break that distance and that close quarter, now I'm in grappling range.
Right.
And then you could slam them.
Tell everybody what Swai Jiao is.
Swai Jiao is just Chinese judo.
Right.
The only difference, which I think is actually really cool, is their gis or their uniforms are short sleeves.
Yeah. I like that idea.
Yeah, it's just different. I think that
mostly just because I'm fat and I sweat, but
I can dig it. Here's the thing, though. I think that if you actually look at old school jiu-jitsu guys that were grappling and stuff, like their uniforms didn't come down to their wrists and their ankles. Their pants came down to like slightly below the knee.
Yeah. And
they came down slightly below the elbow.
Yeah, it's and then the Russians have their version of judo as well. And they wear short pants, but the long sleeve gi.
Yeah, they sambo. They wear the long sleeve gi, but their gi actually has like outward shoulder pads on them so that you can grip them.
Yeah.
They wear wrestling shorts and wrestling shoes, and they wear like a martial arts type belt that's tied in the front. And
Sambo still has the leg takedowns and all that stuff, and combat Sambo has striking.
Yes.
Too. So I think why you see those Eastern Europeans / Russians really dominating MMA right now is because they have been training that style, that MMA style their entire life, and they train it at a level that is like wrestling. There's no training better than wrestling. I would stand by that in any argument that wrestlers their training is fucking hardcore. The Russians are training at that level, and they're training both takedowns and, grappling and striking from the time they're 6 or 7 years old.
Believe it or not, it's actually the second most popular practice, like martial art that's including boxing and wrestling.
What's that?
Over there, it's judo.
Oh, judo's huge in the world.
Vladimir Putin,
yeah.
There are certain world leaders in certain martial arts. They give them what's called an honorary black belt, even though they couldn't fight for shit. Gene Simmons from KISS has an honorary judo black belt, but he couldn't actually fight. Yeah. They even gave Keanu Reeves one, which Keanu Reeves does deserve it because every time he does a John Wick movie, he's doing hands-on combat training with jiu-jitsu and judo for a year straight.
His fucking judo's impeccable in those movies.
Oh my god, his judo's gorgeous, and they run him through the mill, and they don't just say, "Okay, throw a guy like this, take one." The director made him train,
right?
But so he actually deserves his black belt. But no, what I was getting at though is in Russia, Vladimir Putin's a hardcore judo guy.
Right.
He will actually go down to gyms in Russia. Yeah. Especially the kids class, and start giving them pointers or teaching.
Yeah.
And when you watch a combat, I hate using the word combat sport because it's not just a sport, it's an art. They train both.
Right.
But in this instance, we'll say when they train their combat sports there, whether it's sambo or judo or whatever.
Right.
America falls short because we used to train. When you trained.
Right.
Now it's hey, let's have 45 minutes of fun and do whatever in some gyms. When you go to a gym in Russia, they fucking take it out. And they don't give a shit if you are a 7-year-old in a class or you are a 40-year-old in a class.
Right.
Those dudes come out. That's why if you ever watch videos of Kyokushin karate out of Ukraine or Russia, or you watch judo, or you watch... Those dudes are built like fucking linebackers and could beat the balls off of a lot of fucking people. Those dudes are no joke. That's why the running joke is if you ever hear a Russian last name and shit on somebody, oh, I'm fucked.
Yeah, right.
Those dudes literally they get their shit in.
I mean, listen, just here in America, the tournaments that I've been to, the Russian kids, those Eastern Bloc kids they're at a different level at 9 or 10 years old.
Oh, yeah.
To be honest, a lot of times it's not even worth bringing the kids until they're a little bit older. Now, I don't necessarily believe that you need to start training your kids that hard that young, but at 13, 14 years old, when they're starting to hit puberty and they're getting into their adult body, I do think that hardcore training is where to go, because not only for the idea that you'll be better at the tournaments or you'll be a better self-defense person, it's hard. And having kids do something that's really fucking hard and getting better at it and succeeding at it and pushing yourself forward is, a benefit for the rest of your goddamn life.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I agree. It depends. So it all comes down to depending on what you want.
Yeah.
My first instructor, Master Jones, he used to say everybody's black belt's different, and he's not wrong, because I didn't get my black belt under him till I was 18, so it took me 11 years to get a black belt because he didn't believe in children black belts.
Right. And I don't believe in children black belts either.
Exactly, because it's a false sense of security. Maybe if you're a kid that's just so dedicated by 16, I would say okay. But anything below 16 is just no. But
in my estimation, you need to be able to fuck up an adult, a real adult.
Right. You need to be able to fight in the adult class. If you're 16 and you're shredded and you can fight in the adult class and hold your own, then you can hold your own with the adults.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen those kids. I mean, there are, but they're few and far between.
Right. Yeah. And, like I said, I remember when I was 15, 16, and I would get pissed off because I would go compete at the basically the black belt division.
Yeah.
And I'd win. And I'm like, dude, what? I used to say to him, how am I not ready for my black belt? I fought this dude and he lost. He goes, because you're not the same black belt as him. Imagine where your black belt's going to be when you're 18 years old. Doesn't matter if he's a 3rd degree black belt by 18. Your 1st degree black belt's going to fuck his 3rd degree up every day.
Yeah, I don't think you see it in judo and jiu-jitsu so much, or the
no, they don't believe in kid black belts.
But you see in these karate studios, you see 10-year-old black belts. I mean, for fuck's sake.
It's bad when you have to with any martial art, you got to research a school to find what you want. But when I had a buddy of mine at work, and he was putting his kid in a certain McDojo. I'll leave nameless because of certain reasons, but still.
Of course, yeah.
He was sending his kid to like this, I like to call them black belt factories.
Yeah.
And I kept telling him, like, dude, pull your kid from that class. I thought you did karate. Don't you like karate? I said, I like karate. That ain't real karate. That's bullshit. I said, take your kid out of that fucking class. His kid was in there for like 2 years. His kid's like 10. He got bullied in the schoolyard. Kid pushed him up on a wall and started choking him. He didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
He was like, I have no idea. He hated going to class. He would two or three times a week. And my buddy was spending double the money. I said,
yeah.
Here's what you want to do. I said, we got on the area around where he lives. I said, out of all the spots, not because it's a jiu-jitsu school, but because I haven't seen anything else around your house worth the time, go check out this Henzo Jiu-Jitsu Academy.
Yeah.
They got striking, they got grappling, and what I really like is the teacher I know is going to be big on self-defense because he's a civilian cop.
Right.
I said, so the guy who owns the school is a cop, and he sees every day people getting the shit beat out of them, and me as a cop as well. My primary focus on training is defense and being able to defend myself. Then secondary is having fun with it. But he sent his kid to that school. I got back with him a month later and said, how do you like it? My kids go 4 or 5 days a week because they want to, not because I make them.
Right.
They love it. He is having a blast.
Yeah.
I said, is he always still scooting around the ground? He said, no. He's like, the first few weeks were all about like defensive positions, how to hold your hands when you're standing up,
awesome.
How to close the gap, how to hold somebody close, how to de-escalate with your verbal points first. Like, yo, I don't want to do this, or yo, sir, stop, whatever. Like verbal de-escalation to then physical contact. I said, how do your kids feel about it? They love it.
Yeah.
They love it.
The self-confidence is, fast. I mean, I think it happens fast. I would tell any kid, I don't care what kind of, if you got a little kid, in my estimation, 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, I don't think there's a whole lot of value in sending a 3, 4, or 5-year-old. But people do it, and you're going to get games at any martial arts studio. You'll get some basic, falls and, some basic throws, maybe some basic punches and kicks at a karate place. But really, it's fucking playtime. The kid has to be able to focus. 7, 8 years old is probably as early as I would send a kid. But everybody has a different opinion on that, and I don't want to stop people from making money. But
no, listen, I do understand where that comes from. A lot of people want to make like a lot of bread and butter in certain places is the kids program.
Of course, yeah.
But like I said, so my parents probably would have waited until I was like 10 or 11.
Yeah,
I pushed them for karate.
Right. Well, how old were you? 7 or 8 years old, though, right?
I was 7.
Okay.
But it was a different time then because I was shoveling snow to make money to do it because my parents had put me into football, they put me in soccer, they put me in baseball. I hated it all.
Yeah.
I said, I want to do karate. And listen, as 7-year-olds reasoning, why do you want to do karate? Batman does karate. I want to do karate. All right, fine, fuck it. Put him in karate. But it stuck.
But my estimate, I would put anybody in a a kid in a grappling sport at first because it's good conditioning. You're going to learn how to fall, and you're going to actually spar almost immediately.
I'll put you to the best point that piggybacking off of Bruce Lee, right?
Yeah.
Bruce Lee was revered as one of the greatest martial artists ever, because you can't say the greatest.
Right.
But he was one of the greatest martial artists ever. I watched interviews with Brandon Lee when he was still alive, Bruce Lee's son, who passed away during filming of The Crow.
Yeah.
He said the first art my dad had me learning was judo.
Right.
He said, and my dad didn't teach me. He sent me to a school.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking Bruce Lee. At this point, when he's born, there ain't a single fucking person between Hong Kong and America that doesn't know this guy's name.
Right.
And he sent his son to a judo school.
Yeah.
And they said, why did your dad send you to judo, not just teach you himself? He goes, first off, you learn a little better under somebody else's tutelage sometimes.
Always.
Because you look at your kid different than an instructor will look at your kid.
Yeah. That's another podcast, but it's hard to coach your kid.
Exactly. And then the other point was, he said, my dad wanted me to know how to fall and roll young.
Right.
So, like, when he was, like, little, he was learning how, like, I mean, he said he was, like, 5 when his dad enrolled him. But
yeah,
he wasn't, like, doing, obviously, hardcore training. They were just teaching the kids how to tumble and fall. Yeah. Something that is, as it's second nature at 5, by 10, 15, and 20, you do it without thought.
Right. No, right. I mean, a grappling sport, and again, it doesn't have to be judo, but judo, jiu-jitsu, wrestling would be great.
Which I don't think a kid really gets as much benefit out of wrestling until they hit, like, their early teens.
Right.
Because, like, half of the thing that keeps a kid involved is like the cool look of karate or judo.
Yeah.
If you put a kid in like a 5-year-old in a wrestling unitard and say roll around, they're going to get bored of it pretty quick. As they get older and get an affinity for combat sports, and they're like, yo, this is the shit.
Yeah.
That's when kids, and high school, when they can start wearing like the high school jacket and join the team and start making scholarships, that's when wrestling kicks in overdrive.
Right. And wrestling, again, there's no training like wrestling training. It is just the most hardcore, intense shit ever. It's fucking a miserable practice.
Yeah, but grappling in general is like that. Like if you go over to like, if you go to Brazil, where they are doing like real hands-on jiu-jitsu, those guys are training like hard fucking core, like moving trucks and shit, training for 4 hours a day. You go to Japan, their judo training is like an all-day affair. Yeah, like they do classes for 3 hours, take a break, come back for the night class for 2-3 hours, and they beat. Same thing with our wrestlers. Like our fucking wrestlers are like you said.
And then we talked about it. I talked about it with another guy who asked me because I made mention about, or I put a thing on the internet about Habib talking about how hardcore judo was, hardcore judo was, and that he would take the judo practitioners just because it's a worldwide sport over like the wrestle world champion versus the judo world champion. He says it's way harder to become a judo world champion just because it's bigger, and really that training at that level is so fucking intense. It's 6-7 days a week at that, and 2-3 times a day. Those guys train all the time.
Well, it's also that judo, it's not that wrestling doesn't take skill.
Of course.
It really does.
Yeah.
But you can muscle somebody with wrestling.
Right.
You can kind of muscle somebody with judo, but like a wrestler's training habit will change if I say, here are grips to grab on somebody.
Right.
Not just grab his arm and do a drag. Like I'm going to put handles right on this wrestler's body, on his back and his chest and his leg. A wrestler will fight completely different if they had built-in handles on their opponent.
Yeah, of course.
And then that's where the judo comes in, because judo's got handles everywhere. So it's just so, it's not that one's like just like, they're both hard sports, but just like you need a lot more technique when I have fucking like 9 handles built in on my body now.
Right. The pace and your athleticism and your endurance means a little bit less in a gied judo competition. Yeah. It just does. And technique means more. That's
Absolutely.
All. You see wrestlers, these really very college level wrestlers walking on a judo mat, and you grab their gi, and they freeze because they don't know how to defend it, and then they get very good at it really quickly. But vice versa, though, like if you get a guy a jiu-jitsu or a judo guy that's not used to no gi, that they fucking lose their mind when they first get on that no gi mat.
It's funny because when I was young, I was fucking stupid, as most people were.
Yeah.
If I could take knowledge of 30-year-old Bruce, I would have said, listen, dipshit, when I was like 15, join the wrestling team.
Yeah, man.
Because I started doing jiu-jitsu around that time. Yep. And the coach of the wrestling team at Ridley was even like, you should join. Because I used to roll with some of my buddies who were on the wrestling team. Now, granted, it was different rule sets. So when they would go to take me to the ground, I'd put them in like a triangle choke, or I'd put him in like an arm bar or something. And then my buddy be like, you're on your back. You're losing. And I'm squeezing his neck going, do you feel like you're winning though? Because if I squeeze a little bit tighter, you ain't going to be awake enough to tell me you're not. But the coach saw that it wasn't that, oh, he's got great skill. It was just different training. Right. But he was like, yo, he's got gumption for grappling. Right. And he even said, dude, if you join the wrestling team and let me coach you on the rules and how to wrestle and things like that, I wouldn't even think about that. They're like, you could get a good scholarship. Yeah. Instead, I said, fuck you. I like paying for grappling training, and it's not going to get me a scholarship at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big, anybody that's into martial arts just in general, take up boxing or wrestling, one or the other. I mean, I prefer wrestling. I think wrestling is a more practical approach, but boxing, the intensity and the athleticism and the endurance it takes to be a boxer is really incredible, and will help your martial arts.
I give anybody the same recommendation. Like when I have kids, I'm going to let them dictate based off of how they are, right, what they're going to do. Like, if I have, let's say, two boys,
right,
and I'll let them, like, play fight with each other for a minute, right? When they're, like, 7 or 8. If I see the one kid trying to tie up the other one and not punch him, there's my grappler first.
right.
If I see my other one, as uncoordinated as it is, just trying to throw haymakers and shit, there's my striker.
Right.
So what I would do with, like, to me, if, like, my one son, let's say, wanted to start in, like, karate or Muay Thai or whatever he wanted to start with.
Right.
And I get him enrolled by, like, 8.
Yeah.
By 13 or 14, when he hits high school, I'm going to say, you're joining the wrestling team.
Right.
Because you need to learn to grapple, first off. Because I don't care if you want martial arts in your life, your whole life. You don't even need it your whole life.
Right.
But I want you to be proficient to protect yourself. That's a
yeah.
skill you should have growing up. And second off, if you're a good striker and you get free grappling training that not only is free, but looks good on a resume and will potentially get you a trip to college covered if you're good enough,
right.
I'm not going to pull you from your karate classes,
right.
but you are going to wrestle.
Yeah.
And then if I have my kid that already grapples, it depends where they're at. Like, if they're doing judo and it looks like they're killing it, because you technically can get good scholarships for judo.
Yeah, I mean,
they're harder,
they're
but you
hard.
can get them.
All of them are very hard. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah.
But I would also say, like, listen, if my kid's really good at, like, for example, if I have my one son that's great at grappling, obviously I'm going to enroll them at Allah's.
Right.
Because, like, my kid, like, I know Allah as a coach. I know him as a person.
Right.
But even Allah would say, still come to class, but if you're training wrestling for school, I'll supplement your wrestling training. Because
Right.
Allah's a great wrestler, sambo fighter, judoka, and jiu-jitsu guy.
Right.
So,
And a black belt in karate as well.
yeah, and a black belt in karate.
But yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, again, if you want to be a martial artist, you need to train. You need to train different disciplines. You just do. You know, whatever you start out at, you're going to have to get striking eventually. Whether it's Muay Thai or Wing Chun or any karate discipline, you're going to need something. You're going to need stand-up game because, again, you can be the greatest grappler in the world, but if you get a guy that's very quick and can stay outside and can punch the shit out of you, you're going to be in trouble because you're not going to get to him. Vice versa, though, if you're very good at kicking and throwing punches, but you get some little dude who's short and stout and can get in inside of you, all that punching and kicking is not going to fucking matter once they're inside on you. All of it helps, right? I mean,
oh yeah, I mean, like I said, it comes down to the person, and it comes down to what instruction you're getting. Like, you could have, like right now in the world, Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu are considered the end-all be-all next to boxing and wrestling.
Right.
You could go to a Jiu-Jitsu school, and down the road, you could have a Muay Thai Jiu-Jitsu spot, and then down the road, there's a karate judo spot. That Jiu-Jitsu Muay Thai guy could be garbage.
Yeah.
That karate judo guy could be great. It could be vice versa. That jiu-jitsu guy and that one. It all depends on the guy you have teaching you and how. And that person themselves could have been a great fighter and a lousy teacher.
Right.
That doesn't cover shit because they're like, well, how do you not know? Right. How could you not know this, motherfucker? You know this because you were taught it. I have to be taught it. You're here with me. That's what I'm here for.
Right.
Or like you said, you could have guys that just were not good fighters, but they're great teachers on technique.
Yeah.
Look at John Danaher. He's considered like the fucking guru when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Like, people travel the world to come and get like 2 classes under him. I think his privates are like $500 an hour.
Yeah.
Or something crazy like that. And he's been like physically fucked up for like the last 10, 15 years. He doesn't compete.
Yeah.
He can't. Like, he's had like his knees replaced, his back replaced. But just because he's not an active fighter right now, fucking dude's up.
Right.
Dudes will still come from around the world, right? Because he can break shit. He is so fucking knowledgeable and can break shit down to like crayons and pencil science.
Yeah, he made it his life mission. I mean, that's all he does basically, right? I mean, he's in the gym all the time. It's a science to him.
You don't go to Danaher's class, or no, I don't want to say Danaher's class because there's not a whole lot. You can get a lot from one class, but like if Danaher takes an interest in you and trains you for a while and stuff like that,
yeah,
you're at the least going to walk into a lot of other schools and dominate.
Of course, yeah.
If he takes like particular interest in you, like Gordon Ryan and guys like that,
yeah,
just literally, his 5 people he took the most interest in became the Danaher Death Squad.
Right.
Because they were just killing dudes.
Right.
In fact, I don't even think it was a competition against other people anymore so much as who was the best in the team.
Yeah. And if anybody doesn't know who Gordon Ryan is, you should go on the internet and look.
He is considered self-proclaimed, but try and take him down.
Yeah.
The greatest no-gi grappler of all time. We're talking about a guy that even Joe Rogan was there announcing the one fight.
Yeah.
He's very cocky, but he's like good cocky. And like, cause he also knows he builds his image off that. There's money in that.
And he's also young. The gray hair thing has died, which is weird. But anyway,
he's built like a fucking linebacker. But anyway,
yeah.
When he was really like at the height of like building his reputation, what really scored him points was he got into this big match, walked up to Joe Rogan, handed him a card, and said, "This is what I'm going to finish the fight with. Don't open it till the end." He said, "Okay." He beat this dude in like seconds with a triangle choke, and we're talking like a big match, not like a fucking little Naga tournament on the weekend.
Right.
And then Joe Rogan opened it up and he drew a picture of a triangle in it. He was like, I couldn't fucking believe it.
That's amazing.
He was like, he literally drew a triangle to tell me he was going to win by triangle choke.
Yeah.
Dude's insane.
So you have a young adult, I don't know, whatever, a young adult, an older adult, somebody that wants to learn how to do self-defense. What is your recommendation? Where do they start out and where do they go?
Give me an age bracket for this young adult.
So say it's a young person, 18 to 25-year-old, maybe a new police officer, somebody like that, or a new security guard that really needs to understand self-defense.
If you were just a young adult in general, not like specific career, go with something that's close to your house.
Yeah.
Because if you got to drive far, most people are going to eventually quit.
Yeah.
Research the instructor. Doesn't matter what the art is, give it a chance.
Right.
But find your 3 favorite schools in the area, regardless of what they teach.
Yeah.
And go to a trial of all 3 to see what you like the best.
Right.
Because I can't really say, I would do Kempo. Because you may find Kempo to be garbage, but there might be a guy down the street that just teaches diesel Kempo.
Right.
Your neighbor could be Stevie Wonderboy Thompson. So, but if you were a police officer, there's not many wrestling schools around that aren't like for high schoolers and stuff.
Yeah, it just doesn't exist for adults.
As cops, I would highly recommend judo first.
Yeah.
Then jiu-jitsu. Actually, being specific like we were at the beginning, I would recommend judo or Gracie jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Because you'll learn the principles of falling properly. Yeah, I know, like judo, jiu-jitsu guys are great on the ground and stuff like that. But as a police officer with weapons around my belt, not knowing what's in yours, or what's in your pants or in your pocket or your jacket, I don't want to roll with you on the ground. Right. I could have you in a triangle choke on the ground and be like, put your arm up, and you pull a needle out of your pocket and stab me in my leg.
Yeah.
I don't want that. But judo allows you to gain control of somebody standing up, and if you have to, you're not going to throw a punch at them. You're going to hit them with the earth.
Right.
I'm going to slam you on the ground. And unless they're like high or just have a high pain tolerance, you're throwing someone on concrete. That's going to take a lot of the fight out of them right there.
And judo does teach you some groundwork, some chokes, and position work really more than anything.
Believe it or not, it's not the chokes and stuff, because we're getting to a point now when police, believe it or not, I think one of the most effective means of not hurting somebody is a rear naked choke, but a lot of people wouldn't know when to let it go.
Right.
But
and you can go to jail for it.
You can, but but the thing that judo does have that's actually very practical is the pin positions.
The pins, right? The position.
Like you can hold somebody on mount, how to get someone off top of you, how to hold someone like a scarf hold, how to hold somebody in a shoulder hold, how to like sprawl on somebody, like and then roll to take their back and then try to get out from underneath of them. Like these are basic positions that can be drilled for any police officer, because most of the fights are not going to be like UFC fights in the middle of the street.
Right.
They're going to be quick in a rush, and sometimes they're going to have a weapon. De-escalating, obviously, is the biggest point, but sometimes people just close that gap on you quick, and you got to be able to get down quick.
Yeah.
And sure, being able to, like, punch someone in the face 5 times. Listen, if someone's got a weapon, you got to do what you got to do. But you could also break your hand.
Yeah.
You may not even hurt them. You could break your hand on the first shot, and they're still trying to stab you.
Right. So for the regular person, go find somewhere close to your house where you're actually going to go train where you like it.
Right.
Because you're going to learn enough to defend yourself.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. That's a great point that you're making. For a police officer, you want to learn some grappling skills first, and probably striking a little bit once you get into the grappling.
I would once you have a good foundation in grappling, I'd lean towards more traditional than I would modern. And I hate saying modern and traditional because these are all old arts.
Right.
There's really nothing modern about any of them. But like for instance, like Muay Thai or boxing. Once again, when you watch Muay Thai guys and boxing guys in the ring, they got like 8 layers of padding. Granted, they're still great fighters.
Right.
But like if I hit with that same technique and I don't have a padded hand, I could still break my hand.
Yeah.
That's why they call it the boxer fracture.
Right.
Whereas some of your more traditional arts that have lethality to them will teach you to hit with that palm, the razor's edge of your hand, to yank someone's ear to the side, to hook the side of their eye. Now, are those go-to techniques? Absolutely not. Right. But if I have an understanding of how to grapple and have the dominant position and you're still fighting, that's when I can mix in some dirty techniques that you may learn from like old school karate or old school whatever. Some
very hurtful techniques that will most likely stop people.
Exactly. Like, for example, if I have someone in my guard and I'm on the street, which it could happen, I'm not saying it doesn't because instinct kicks in. If someone gets you on the ground, you want to wrap them up real quick.
Right.
But I'm trying to get you off me, and I can't, like, do, like, some crazy fucking sweep because of just whatever I'm at.
Right.
But if I can yank you close to me and hook the side of your eye and use my body to pull you to the side just to get on top of you or at least out from under you, that could help because I'm mixing those grappling techniques with something really fucking dirty.
Right. And you talked about the older arts. Talk to me. Tell everybody what those older arts are that you would suggest.
I would recommend like some old school Japanese style jiu-jitsu. They do a lot of like grabs and stuff. Krav Maga is whatever. Like I said, it depends on the instructor. Right. Krav is not a bad art. It's just I put it in different. It's different. It has different goals. It has different mentalities. But they are like, let me grip some face and groin or whatever up if I have to.
It can be lethal,
It can be lethal. It depends on the person.
My only problem with Krav Maga really is that it's so hard to train.
It is.
So to become proficient at something, you have to be able to train it.
Exactly.
At least soft. Like with any of the striking arts, you could at least go around and throw punches softly, wear some headgear, not that, so you're not fucking giving yourself a concussion every time. But with Krav Maga, you can't poke somebody's eye out.
Right. And listen, even if you learn boxing for footwork and coordination to mix with your grappling, and then you just add the element of open hands instead of closed fists.
Yeah.
That can work too, man. Like I said, and it also depends on the instructor you have.
Yeah, and that's, if anybody takes anything out of here, from a self-defense standpoint, again, now I'm not shitting on boxing because it's an incredible art form.
With incredible athletes.
Right. But from a self-defense standpoint, open hands is the way to go.
Yeah. Because
it's harder to break, it's harder to break the base of your hand than it is when you close your fist because it's so easy to break. It really is very easy to hurt yourself that way.
Yeah. And boxing has great combinations and strategy if you mix with open hand, which is very possible.
Yeah.
It's just that, like I said, I mean, like, you could have diesel hands that could hit somebody about 5 or 6 times. Eventually, that hand's going to break.
And if you really want to be proficient at, which is stuff that you're starting to teach me with some trapping and those types of things, like the Wing Chun kind of stuff, is sort of the next level, I think.
Well, so it's funny, like the guy who ran that whole system, in my opinion, like everyone's like, yeah, man, whatever. The guy who started our system's name was William Chung.
Okay.
He was a student of Ip Man's, and believe it or not, he was Bruce Lee's real instructor. Okay. Ip Man was not like in the movie where he was like this great dude that fought for his country and taught Bruce Lee and took him in. He was an opium addict who helped teach triad members and didn't want to teach Bruce Lee all the time because he was born in America.
Right.
So he'd have his senior student teach stuff that he was teaching him in class.
Yeah.
And that was William Chung. William Chung, he was never my direct Sifu per se, my instructor.
Yeah.
But I've gone to several of his seminars with my Sifu.
Yeah.
And the dude was just like an animal with his stuff. Like, he could fight in a ring. He could.
Yeah.
But, like, he was old school, like Hong Kong rooftop fights or people coming after you on the street fights. And he's like, listen, I don't give a shit how good of a martial artist you are. He's like, you know what I would do? I'd grind up chili powder and keep it in my waistband. I would do this. I would do that. I'd throw that shit right in someone's fucking eye and start trying to go at them. He goes, if I had someone trying to pin me against the wall, I'll grip the side of their eye and start hitting them in the throat.
Yeah.
He was like, you got to get... We are no longer talking about a rule set on the street. We are talking, this dude is going to fucking kill me. Or worse. Because... people are like, oh, I don't want to maim the guy because he's hurting me. What's that dude's intention towards you? Right. Do you think that dude's sitting back saying, well, I don't want to hurt you. I just want your wallet. Can you just give it to me?
Yeah, right.
No, I'm going to fuck. Especially today, a lot of them are like, I'll fucking kill you anyway after I robbed you or hurt you.
Yeah, right. Especially with the proliferation of guns, right?
Exactly. So I just like that's why even drawing from this man who's in his late 80s now was still to the very end, like, pull that fucker's eye out. Rip his fucking ear off. It takes 8 pounds of pressure to rip someone's ear off.
Love it.
Like, just get nasty with it. Have skill, but know when to put that dirty aspect with your skill.
Yeah. You also teach military training, right? You do combat training.
Yes.
For the military. What is the one thing that you want them to get whenever they train with you? You know, what is the thing that you're always, you focus on? Is there any one thing or
Believe it or not, the thing I hammer home the most is to train on your own.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yes, I have you maybe 1 weekend a month, and that's not the whole weekend. That's like maybe an hour or two one of the days.
Right.
And even then, that's if we have room for it in that month.
Right.
I was never more upset than when I had a room full of guys who now all the people in my room are military police.
Right.
Part-time. Air Force Security Forces. And they now we're on an installation, not a lot happens, so it's not like a huge emphasis. But about 70% of them are either A, civilian cops, or B, ready to become them.
Right.
Like I have someone, she's like a good troop. She's like 5'5".
Right.
And she's going into liquor control for the state police, which means she could be plain clothes trying to pull someone out of a bar saying you're underage, and that person now fights them back.
Right.
I have state troopers in there, which they double need to know how to fucking scrap because your backup could be 3 miles away.
Right.
And I have Philly cops, township, whatever. They're all law enforcement. And I sat back and said, I want everyone in this room to put your hand up if you're civilian side or going to be. And 75% of the room goes up. How many of you actively train? 2 hands stayed up.
Right.
And they're talking about a room full of like 30 or 40 people.
Yeah.
So out of, let's say 40 people, 30 of them are civilian cops and only 2 are training on the outside. Yeah. So I had them come up and I said, okay, the 2 that train, why do you train? Because I started taking your class here with you and I wanted to do it on the outside. Good reason. Why did you start training? I started training a year ago when I met you and saw that you could fuck somebody up with it and that might be a useful skill, which is fine, which I'd rather 2 than none, but still. So I put it to a social experiment. I said, why don't you train? Oh, I'm busy, money, blah, blah. I know what you make, so that's bullshit. Right. And there are a lot of schools that have like Adopt a Cop and all that other shit that would love to have you there. Right. So let's move on to the other thing. What's your mentality? Oh, well, I have less than lethal. I have an ASP. I have a baton. I have this. I have that. I said, that's great. Here's what we're going to do. Take me into custody. I gave them breakaway handcuffs. I said, here's the fake guns. If you can get them out and point them at me, you shot me. Right. Okay, cool. I said, oh, no. You're not starting 5 feet away. What do you mean? I just put my hands behind my back. You have to put those cuffs on me. Put me in challenge me all you want. Once they broke that gap, which they even tell you at the police academy, 6 foot rule. Yeah. In 6 feet, that gun could become useless now. Right. Because of the time it takes you to draw it, get it out, and point it, and aim it. Yeah. And that's assuming you're a good enough shot. Which, believe it or not, even that close, there are some people that are still shitty shots. Yeah. And we did 2 go-arounds. The first one, I handcuffed one guy's ankle to the other one's wrist. And the other one, I took the one dude down, took his gun out, and shot the other guy. They said, well, not everybody's fucking Bruce Lee. I said, I have a story for you then. About 5 years ago, I was working in West Philly as a cop. I was still training at that time. I was doing jiu-jitsu with Zach Green. Right. Another great jiu-jitsu instructor. Great guy. And I had a dude that was doing a burglary. Guy's literally yelling out of the second floor window, someone's in my house, he might have a gun. I don't know, he's breaking. I'm driving by and dude's yelling out of a second floor window, someone's in my house. Yeah. So I run in through the front door, Dude's in the living room. He goes to swing. I duck, grab him like at a waist takedown, lean back and throw him right on the ground. Start bending his arm back, put him in Americana. Like, dude, stop fighting, or I'm going to break your fucking arm. He rolled right over to his stomach. I cuffed him up and took him into custody. Now, that wasn't like the world's craziest fight. It was just a quick takedown, which that's what the goal is. Right. Quick takedown, bend your arm back, comply, you're done. Cool. Yeah. That dude went to jail briefly. But I know that if he gets caught doing something again, he's going to be there for quite a bit of time.
Right.
So, fast forward. I'm not going to name who, but I followed a certain jiu-jitsu academy that this guy goes to. He's been going to for the last 3-4 years.
Yeah.
I know that dude is still out on the blocks doing shit. Now, if he found jiu-jitsu to get him out of trouble, great. I vote for that for anybody. That was not the case.
Yeah.
Now, this dude, 5 years later almost, has a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, trains about 4 days a week, and does Muay Thai, mixing it in about 2 to 3.
Right.
You are now that state trooper that doesn't fucking train at all.
Yeah.
You go to put him in custody. He realizes either A, I have guns in my car, or B, I have drugs in my car. Either way, I'm looking at a minimum of 5 more years in prison. I'm not going back. And the last time I fought with a cop, he beat me the fuck up. Rules are different now. I can fucking fight.
Right.
Now what happens when he slams you on the ground, takes your gun, and either A, shoots you, or B, cuffs you with your own shit, makes you look like a dick, and takes your car.
Yeah.
Either way, you look like an asshole and didn't do your job.
Yeah. And the thing that I want to add, too, is, I'm obviously not a cop, but the idea that you're able to, that you do train and you have a basic level of self-defense will make you less likely to kill somebody.
I'm not even going to lie. I hurt my back, I want to say, like 8 months ago wrestling with somebody.
Right.
Dude was a big guy. And I hurt my back because of the way I wasn't paying attention as much as I should have. I was looking at something else while I had a hand on him.
Yeah.
And he pulled both my arms up, and I felt my lower back pop.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm like, I got to take this dude down really fucking quick because in about 10 seconds, my lower back's going to go out on me.
Right.
Took him down. I was able to fight with him for a minute. I got him all cuffed up, and I was like, had to go to the chiropractor and shit. But here was the takeaway. I still got hurt, and I trained.
Right.
Imagine had that dude pulled my arms and I didn't know what to do, and now we're in a hallway fighting. Yeah. This is bad. This is really bad for me. And then if he wins, he's getting my gun.
I mean, I feel like it's part of your job. You sign up for that kind of thing. It's really part of your job that you should be training. You can't be the fat ass out there that can't fucking move, man. You're a danger to yourself, and you're a danger to your partner.
Yeah.
You really are. I
had a guy I was fighting with on Market Street when I was assigned to the 6th District.
Yeah.
And he was just high as a kite, and he was a big fucking... He wasn't like a muscle guy, but he was just a big fucking dude.
Yeah.
And we were short on cops. I was dropped down fighting with this dude on Market Street with cars driving past our heads.
Yeah.
Because he's like, fuck you, I'm fighting. And I'm like, fuck, man, he's big.
Yeah.
And I hit him 4 times, and he was still rolling.
And the other thing, by the way, I want to add to anybody who's thinking about starting martial arts even later in life, like I do, just do it. But for cops, particular, or anybody who's been like in the athletics and the super competitive, leave the ego at the door. Mm-hmm. Leave it at the door, because you're not going to last 2 weeks if you don't.
Dude, even if you're high level and you've been there for a while, leave the ego at the door.
Yeah.
Because you could have somebody that comes in that's newer. And listen, man, martial arts is even about luck too. There's a certain degree of luck to it.
It happens.
You could be in there with somebody, and it's not that they're more skilled than you. You turn the wrong way, and they saw a quick angle and threw you down.
Right.
But you know what? You learned. It's okay. You could be on your 4th round and lose to a white belt because they're fresh-faced and hopped right up, and you're just exhausted. But you can't take that shit personal.
Yeah, I mean, I tried martial arts a couple times earlier in my life in my 20s, and it never lasted long for me because my ego was too strong at the time. I've come back later in life where, I have a little bit easier to deal with the defeat. But if you're not going to last. Because little, short, fat, old dudes are going to kick your ass at first until you get good at it. Because it's like anything else.
I remember when I joined Alice 4 years ago, man, I was already a black belt in 2 styles and a blue belt.
Right.
I had no problem putting my white belt on, being like, cool, man, I am brand new here. You show me the fucking way. I'm here to learn from you.
Right. Yeah.
Show me what you got.
And it's right. And the point is you're going to get better.
Yeah.
And the point is you're going to learn self-defense and you're going to be better, especially for cops. You're going to be better at de-escalation because you're more confident on the street.
Absolutely.
I have no doubt about that.
Oh, I'm the first one to tell you, I hate putting my hands on people. First off, people are disgusting, and I just don't want to touch them. Yeah. But second off, I would rather just, funny story, cop story, if you want it real quick.
Yeah.
So police and fire used to give out these pens, right? And I still do. And they're like black guys, white guys, Hispanic guys with their little police hats or their fire hats on.
Yeah.
So I used to work with my old partner, Deshaun. Love Deshaun. He's a great dude. And I had the two pens in there. It was a white cop and a black cop. We show up to a domestic. Dude is freaking the fuck out. Like throwing shit and stuff like that. I'm yelling, calm down, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't want to touch this dude. Like, I just want to chill. He gets midway through throwing a fucking chair, stops, looks at my pens, and goes, yo, is that a black guy and a white guy? I said, yeah, it's me and Officer Long. And he goes, yo, man, I think you solved racism. I said, all right. I was like, so you want to just chill, man? Let's talk. He goes, I think I'm feeling better. All right, let's talk, man. Let's just chill. That was cool. I like that. I'm like, all right, man, let's just sit down and talk about it, dude. It's cool. I am much happier with that outcome than having to fight with this dude for 5 minutes and either tasing him or whatever. But I'd rather he just chilled out and thought my pens were great.
I have another pen story real quick, and then we'll be done with this for today. But I worked for a time with a guy that was mine when I was running security at the casino for a brief time that I did it. Mm-hmm. But he was my number 2, and he was a really high-level private security guy. He was a military guy, state police guy, but really high-level private security. And he used to talk to guys about their pens and how they become improvised weapons.
Absolutely.
And to pay attention and how, like I could walk up to you and I can stab you with your pen. And he used to freak the security guards out. And he was just so fucking intense. He was so intense. And when he was there, hopefully, Raffle, but listen to this, when he was there, they did not love him because he was just too intense. But now that he's gone, they miss him.
I was just about to say, I'll tell you what, though, man.
Because he was always going to prepare you.
And not for nothing, if the shit kicked the fan,
he's
the dude you want behind you, man. You don't 100%. Give a shit. Because when that moment comes and he's coming in to help you, you don't give a shit how intense and how much you hated him. You are so glad to see him.
Yeah, you know he's there.
That's right.
He's right behind you. He's not afraid to be on the floor. And he's the guy that used to rip your hand off when he would shake your hand.
Yeah.
You know that guy?
Yeah, we all got that guy in our lives.
But shout out to Raph and teaching security guards that they can be killed by improvised weapons.
Yeah, that was, what's funny? That was my old partner. Not that, but my old partner used to think of me that way.
Yeah.
Because I would always bust his balls about training and telling him all this. Listen, I did 8 years of active duty Air Force and blah, blah, blah. I was been blah, blah, blah. I'm a big guy. I can handle myself.
Yeah.
All right, man, cool. It's whatever. Because I used to bust his fucking stones. Like, dude, you got to train. You got to do this. You got to do whatever. We had to fight these 3 bigger dudes on the corner.
Yeah.
I took 2 of them. He took 1. I got both of them cuffed and then took his dude off of him and cuffed him. But you know what, though? After that, he heeded my warning. He started doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
He's got like 3 stripes on his white belt. He loves it.
That's awesome. It's awesome. So, I mean, just the warning for anybody that's in these physical jobs, don't make it take the warning. You know what I mean? Don't make it take getting your fucking ass kicked or ending up in a hospital. God forbid, ending up really hurt, or dead.
Absolutely.
Anyway. All right, you got anything else you want to talk about?
No, man, that was a good session.
That was a good session. I just wanted to talk a little bit about martial arts and your perspective, and get everybody to love how much you love, to learn how much you love martial arts and how much I love talking to you about it.
But I love you, Greg. If you can hear this,
Greg is starting to come out. He's been out to a couple classes.
That's right.
You better fucking continue.
I know.
Little skinny motherfucker. He's skinny, though.
I know. You know what, though? He's a little muscle bob buff pants.
I know.
I hate him for it.
No, that's what I mean.
I tell him all the time. He's a Satanist. His favorite day is leg day, and he does it twice a week.
I don't mean it in a negative way. I just mean that I hate everyone that doesn't have a fat belly.
That's all right. I mean it in a negative way. I hate you, Greg. You're a Satanist.
I can't wait to throw Greg for the first time and smile at him.
And mean it.
I mean it.
Yeah, not like a soft one. Like, okay, Greg, I'll set you down, buddy. Like, I can't wait to slam you, Greg.
Call him little dude.
That's
when
right.
He's 3 times my size.
And that's all right, little dude. Let me help you up.
All right, everybody, we're out. See you next time.
Later.